Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com, where pop culture gets blasted. Once again, broadcasting to you from the empty and bare Critical Blast caverns as we are packing up to make the trek across country to our new headquarters, wherever that may be. I haven't quite figured an address yet, but we do have an area of the country selected. So we're a step closer to having a background again once I unpack everything. Tonight, we are delving back into crowdfunding, this time skipping over to Kickstarter, where we're talking with Alex about Cirsova magazine. Cirsova is a science fiction magazine that's an anthology, like it used to be back in the day when you had really good stories and short stories in a science fiction magazine, only in the big format, not the tiny little digest size. Alex, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. And of course, joining Alex, you've seen him every other Saturday on the LCS Guys show. Been gone for a month now. First appearance for 2021. We have Michael Tierney. Michael, how are you tonight?
Hi, how you doing there?
Man, I think I'm doing okay. It's been a rough 2 months, but
you know, as soon as you went live, all of a sudden the speaker just went crackle, and I couldn't hear what you said there.
Oh no, we're not going to do that. It's probably the furnace that's running over here. It might be making some background noise. I'd hate to think that every time we go live, it changes our speaker. That would be horrible. That'd be something for StreamYard to work on.
Yeah, this happens whenever we do the Saturday ones. There, usually I'll just be kind of quiet after the first few, little bit of the show, and then it'll straighten out. So
that's odd. That's very odd.
Yeah.
We already got people in the chat saying hi, BAP2. Welcome. If you haven't been to the LCS Guys show, this is Michael Tierney. He's also a writer, and he's involved in this 5th anniversary issue for Cirsova magazine. So you guys have been at this. You've been at this about as long as we've been doing Critical Blast.
Yeah, we've been doing it since spring 2016. We've put out 15 issues, 3 specials, several anthologies. We published Michael Tierney's 35th anniversary edition of Wild Stars, and hopefully we'll keep on going for years to come.
That is a big book, Michael. That's what, about 4 inches thick?
That's
about 3 inches thick, but yeah.
Oh, that is very cool. Let me get the page shared up here so we can see the Kickstarter screen. And Bab, I don't have a book, so I don't know if you're asking me about an autographed tier or asking Michael and the guys here about an autographed tier. Do you guys do that kind of thing, Alex? Have autographed tiers on?
We do for our solo titles. We haven't for the magazines, just because we tend to have so many different contributors. Unless somebody is local, it's kind of hard to get the autographs on a magazine.
Sure.
But we do have a couple tiers for this one where you can back for original artwork. We do have interior artwork. This is our first issue that we have interior artwork. We have one illustration by Robert Zoltan, who also is the author of the Rogues of Mirth stories, one of which appears in this issue. And we have 3 interior illustrations by Dark Philly, 2 of them for the new Wild Stars novella, and 1 for our regular Mongoose and Meerkat feature.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of stories in every issue, too. I mean, do you have a regular corral of authors that you work with, or is it just what I call for submissions?
Well, we used to mostly just put out calls for submissions, but of course when you do that, you end up with sort of a regular stable of people who like submitting to your magazine. They like working with you, you like working with them, and so they kind of become regulars. Michael is one of the earliest of those. His first story with us appeared in our 2nd issue, way back in 2016, Shark Fighter. And the Mongoose and Meerkat series we've been running for a few years now by Jim Brayfogle. We just published an anthology of the first 5 stories, fully illustrated, last year, and we've bought the rights to the entire series. We're going to be serializing all of the stories up through number 16, and 17 and 18 are going to be published in the last volume anthology. And I think this one is number 8. The 8th Mongoose and Meerkat adventure we're running is going to be appearing in this issue.
So
Yeah, I remember
Mongoose,
when Alex was first talking about doing Cirsova. He came into my store, and I've been an independent publisher myself since '77, and he's asking a couple of questions about the printing process and this and that. And when he finished the first one, he brought it in and showed it to me. And I thought, hey, he's actually got something going on here. Because so many people say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, but when it comes down to it, they're like, hey, that's a lot of work. And so they usually never even do the first one. If they do the first one, there's almost never a second one because, again, hey, that was a lot of work. Well, Alex did the work. They put out a great product. I was like, well, shoot, yeah, if you're taking submissions, I got a story I want to send to you.
Yeah, I think Michael expected me to walk into his store with a saddle-stitched zine that I'd printed off a Xeroxer.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I've seen some stuff you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I mean, not even good Xeroxes. I mean, just wow, some stuff that like, okay, well, yeah, I'll be happy to carry your stuff on the shelf. Then I'll take it on consignment, and then a little later you just give them their books back because everybody looks at it like, yeah, not with my money.
Yeah, well, now that I mean, you don't even have to be a printer nowadays because there's so much print on demand. It's you send it off to somebody and you just get a book back with KDP and
Yeah.
Ingram Spark is doing stuff. Now you still got to be responsible for formatting it and making it look good, but
Yeah. One of the big issues that's been hitting the last couple months for a lot of people is that because of COVID, places are understaffed, the post office is delayed, and so people ended up with really big delays on a lot of their books. Several of our friends have been doing comics through a couple printers like Blam. They've been backlogged. Our last issue was kind of the victim of some backlog. Some people pre-ordered it back in early December. They just now got their copies. Fortunately, I think the backlog from the holidays is finally starting to clear out, and people are finally starting to get books again. That is one of the disadvantages of print on demand, is that sometimes stuff gets kind of shuffled to the bottom of the pile of the priorities list on some of these big businesses.
yeah, I know the feeling there because I've ordered some stuff from Ingram Spark and it was like months before I got it back in, and it was weird because it's like they took my order and they split it between 3 different factories. And it's like, okay, you're getting 3 shipments, one from this one from that one. I don't think I ever got the one final copy that went to a third factory. That may show up any day now. Hammer of Doom's in the chat saying he's getting audio booked. Is that from everybody, Hammer of Doom, or is it just when one of us speaks? So if it's one specific person, let us know. I'm hearing everybody okay, so maybe it's my audio that's coming out.
And I'm on headphones, so
okay, you're on
head.
head.
Trouble here, Alex, from time to time, it just kind of cuts in and out. I'll catch a few words, then everybody will go away. So it just it's been both of y'all for me.
Yeah, and I've been off of headphones for months now on this new laptop. I thought I was doing okay. I'd hate to have to start using headphones again. I unpack my mic. So
you're saying it's Michael's audio.
Now I just heard you there, Alex. Now I've tried both headphones and regular speaking. It didn't make any difference for me.
Are you using a computer or are you using your phone, Mike?
I think I heard you ask what I was using. I'm using my iPad.
Okay, yeah. Apple product is really weird with StreamYard for whatever reason. People who use their phone or their iPad, it cuts in and out. Sometimes I have to drop them and bring them back in. I know when I was used to drive the show off my phone, and I would be the one having all the problems. So that might be the case there. It's just an Apple issue. But we'll get by.
Yeah, it's been happening as long as we've been doing like the Saturday shows on the LCS guys, and I say usually about 15, 20 minutes in, then it just clears up and gets smooth. Before I was like coming out, coming back in, and I'd just be like all the way back to reset and having to go through the long process and wait for it all to clear on up there.
Yeah, I think, Misha, that's what we're saying is that it's Michael's iPad that is the audio issue on his end, but that it should clear out in about a few minutes. Apparently, it takes a while for the Apple system to warm up.
Yeah, it's weird because I can at least hear Michael fine on my end. There's a little bit of a distortion, but I can still hear him. But
Yeah.
Now you
I can
both are
heaven
coming
knows
great now.
what's actually being heard in the playback.
So I can hear you both fine now. It just all of a sudden cleared up. Oh, let's hope it holds. I'll cross my fingers.
There we go. We have a good internet connection. Hold on to it for a while. So, what made you decide that you wanted to print a science fiction magazine, Alex? I know what drove us to want to, print 50 books, but I don't have to do it.
A big part of it was I was just getting into the pulps, particularly Planet stories. I was just really enjoying the stuff that I found and was reading. Was like, I wonder if the reason that you don't see that much of it today is because there aren't outlets for it. So I decided to create an outlet for it, and that way I could, read the pulp stories that I enjoyed and also encourage the people who were writing that sort of fiction to write it, send it to me. That's one of the reasons why we pay semi-pro rates instead of just token rates, is so that people who are writing this kind of fiction will be able to do it, make a little bit of money from it. You're not going to make a whole lot of money writing short fiction because the supply just so far outstrips the demand and the market's ability to pay for it and recoup costs. And that's one of the things that we've tried to explain over the years, is just the economics of how a short fiction market works.
Yeah, it's but I tell you, you might have discovered the same thing from your first year to your fifth year. When we started our first science fiction anthology, Michael, you remember Gods and Services?
Yeah, and I actually talked to you about that.
Yeah, I
said pay them $20, send them whatever money you'd spend on sending them copies, and
it worked. I mean, it's $20 and a copy was much better than 5 copies, and cheaper on my end too, by the way. It turned out. So let's spend money instead of books. But it was our first book, and we weren't getting a lot of submissions. And it was like I drew the thing out for 3 months of a reading window to get the 10 good submissions that we got.
Yeah.
So when The Devil I said, well, I'm going to do, now I know how long it's going to take to get something. I'm going to give it a 4-month reading window. And we had 170 submissions.
No. Yeah, the first time we did open submissions, I think we got about 20 stories. The second time we got over 60. Nowadays, I'm like, I don't even like doing submissions because I get over 200 submissions and I don't have time to read all of them. I just like just the last year, I said, I don't have enough space to work with all of the authors I know that I want to work with, so there's no point in doing submissions. I'm just going to hit people up and say, I love your stories. If you have something, send it to me. If I like it, I probably will. I'll buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once they know you're a paying entity and a publishing entity, they're there now. We're like, yes, we're going to send you everything we write, even if it's tangentially related to what you publish. Now, you said you wanted the pulp stories. I'm guessing you're talking about stuff like the amazing stories, weird tales.
Well, specifically Planet stories is probably my favorite of the pulp magazines. At the time they were at their zenith, they were still kind of a throwback because this was when Campbell was in his prime and people were moving more towards serious science fiction, the whole big men with screwdrivers and space type stories. But while that was blowing up and the big thing, they were still publishing the 20s style swordsman on Mars adventures and that sort of thing. The people who were fans of Burroughs and wrote in that style, they were Planet Stories was still publishing that sort of fiction.
Oh. Yeah, and I think there's been a resurgence in that kind of storytelling over the past 10 years. And Michael, when looking back at your story, you remember Dynamite was picking up all the John Carter, Deja Thoris, Tarzan titles. They were all kind of coming back, and they're still going pretty strong. They're trying to do modern spins on things.
Oh yeah, there's still strong demand on them all.
Baptu's in the chat asking, is there any place he can look into the Wild Stars to see if he likes it? Do you have any pages online, Michael, that
Yeah, if you go to my website, www.thewildstars.com, The Wild Stars, and I've got like a couple of, I've got preview pages on all the different issues or all the different volumes. I've even got one issue of the comic on there, which you can read it by page, and I give a little narrative off to the side.
Yeah, I understand that people might not want to necessarily go all in on the $80 700-page omnibus without having a chance to get a sneak peek at it first.
yeah.
But one good thing about the Artomique paradigm, I think, is that it works really well as a self-contained standalone story. There's a lot of things that if you've read the other 4 books, you'll get a lot of payoff out of them. But I think that this one stands alone pretty well, too.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always try to do with my stories. I try to give you a complete self-contained story, but at the same time, connect it with everything else. And I've got a bigger, longer narrative. I've really got like a 12-novel arc I want to do. And so I'm building to book 12. And, so I've got a plan because I wrote like a series of novels back in the 70s. And I've just been kind of extrapolating that ever since.
Tell us about how the last Republican president of Earth is going to save the galaxy.
He's got his hands full, doesn't he?
He's only got 10 days left.
No, in Wild Stars, there is a Republican president who's having problems.
I remember him. He was in the last comic version I read, and that's something I need to too. Yeah, Wild Stars is a mixed genre or a mixed media rather storytelling because it's some of it's comic book and some of it's novel, and it all goes from one to the next. So it flows in and out of that. This is the full cover, by the way, for people who want to see what this issue number 6, spring 2021, 5th anniversary is going to be like on the front of it. Alex, I haven't asked how many do you know how many pages this is, or how many they usually run?
Our issues are usually about 108 to 120 pages. These are the next few issues we have plotted out are going to be about 122 pages.
Okay, so $12 for 120 pages. Granted, it's not a comic book with 120 pages, but that's awesome.
Well, funny you should mention that though, because with our format, word count's probably more important than page count. So we're running at about 40,000 words of fiction. But for the next 3 issues, we are reprinting serially Paul O'Connor's Bad Axe, which was a sword and sorcery comic that he did on the Adventure imprint with Malibu back in the 80s.
Oh, I remember that. And there's actually, here is the cover for that. I think I probably had one of these issues.
Yeah, so you are going to be getting about 30 pages worth of comics in this issue on top of all of our stories.
So if you're in the chat and you're a regular Crowdfunder backer, you pay $12 for a 30-issue comic book anyway. You're just getting an extra 90 pages of stories added onto here. So you should definitely want to jump in and try this out for $12. Plus, if it's successful, I guarantee you personally that it will arrive in good shape. Because if this Kickstarter is successful, Alex and Cirsova magazine are going to be probably our first client for Critical Blast Logistics, and you've all heard me talk about that enough, and I'm going to go into it in deeper detail tomorrow on the LCS Guys show. But yes, we are branching out into being a distribution network for crowdfunded magazines and comic books. I'm looking very forward to that.
There's a place on the Kickstarter where you can actually see about half a dozen or more pages of the start of the book.
Yeah, you have to back to see it though. But we've posted the first 7 pages of Bad Axe.
Oh, so if you're a backer, then you can see the preview.
Yeah, but you only have to back for $1 to get to see the preview. And if you don't like the preview, you can unpledge your $1.
Tip a buck.
Tip a buck, we'll tip our hand.
There you go. Now we have a question in the chat here, and I was going to ask this, and I'm glad that Herrenberg reminded me of this because I had forgotten it. The word Cirsova, where's that coming from? It's nobody's last name.
It is an invented word. It was the It was actually a Dungeons and Dragons setting that I cooked up years and years and years ago. Cirsova actually started as a setting blog where I just wrote up a few little details about the setting that I cooked up, but eventually just sort of morphed more into mechanical analysis of gaming, game design, that sort of thing. And the name stuck. It became the brand. Unfortunately, it's something that nobody else had that name. Nobody else has used it. For the longest time, we would always end up with search results for when people misspelled the name of Alison Cirsova, who's an Eastern European pianist.
Oh.
So it took a while for us to become a searchable term, but it's kind of worked out that way, and we've stuck with it ever since.
Yeah, we've been fortunate with our trademark and brand as well. I mean, initially our searches would lead you to a brand of firecracker, but because we weren't in the same business, there wasn't any conflict.
And one other thing is, oh crap! I just lost my train. Yeah, the reason that we sort of started the magazine is because when I was blogging about Dungeons and Dragons, game mechanics, and that sort of stuff, one of my friends, Jeffro Johnson, was doing a survey into Appendix N, was the literature that inspired Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And so he was reading those books and posting reviews and analysis, and I was reading some of that stuff too, and reading some of my own stuff on the side. And that was what got me into looking at the pulp stuff and Planet Stories, and authors like Jack Vance, Lee Brackett, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And so that's how the whole setting blog that started as Cirsova morphed into the magazine of science fiction and fantasy and thrilling adventures and daring suspense.
Okay.
There is actually one book that is published by me that takes place in the Cirsova setting. It is a choose-your-own-adventure book, and virtually no one has bought it. We've sold hundreds and hundreds of copies of the magazine over the years, but I think maybe a dozen people have actually bought the Cirsova book.
All right. Well, I see that there's 3 different covers to your 5th anniversary one, and A and C are the first 2, so we're skipping B. A and C are both $12, and then $35 for cover B. Why is cover B so special?
Because it's Genzo Man. We are getting a Genzo Man cover for the hardcovers. I wish that we had been able to get the art ready and posted. We have the line art for it, but if we had waited any longer to do the Kickstarter, I had doubts about whether or not we would be able to fulfill on time. As I said before, there have been some delays with a lot of the print-on-demand shops, and one of our hallmarks has been we always ship on time or early. So we didn't want it to be late March or early April and be like, well, technically the issue is out on Amazon. Sorry that the people who backed the Kickstarter haven't gotten theirs yet.
Yeah, I'll tell you something about crowdfunding backers, and Michael, you'll back me up on this. They don't like it when the book shows up somewhere else first. If they back it online.
Where's my chicken book?
Yes. Oh, I feel bad for him, but I understand that there were things that had to be done for that deal. And by the way, this B cover here with the Genzo Man, that's a hardcover version for $35. So it's not just $35 because it's this name artist here. It's also that it's a hardcover book.
Hardcover with a dust jacket.
Oh, with the dust jacket too.
Michael can attest to how nice our hardcovers are. In fact, he can show them to us.
Oh, sure. In fact, one I've got here is
giant, it's the same printer who does the giant Wild Stars book. So,
like here, I've got the.
Hold on, let me get control of my mouse again.
This is my Young Tarzan story that I did, where I finished a fragment left over by Igros Burroughs, and on the back of it, back cover, we also did a little promotion for another book I did for another publisher. The Igros Burroughs 100-Year Art Chronology. But yeah, these are really well done packages. Nice.
Very good. And for those who don't know in the chat, this was a discovered scrap of a story that Edgar Rice Burroughs had written for Tarzan that had not been published. A lot of people didn't even know it existed in the Burroughs estate, except for a handful of people. And you were selected to finish it.
I was friends with Danton Burroughs, and he was telling me about this fragment. They said, they couldn't get anybody taken on, and nobody knew what to do with it. And he was telling me about it. I was like, I know exactly what to do with it. I said, send it on to me, and I'll work it up and send it to you. And I sent it on in, and he's like, oh, I love it. But then he's like, well, right now Valentine's got all the rights for the prints. We can't do that. Dark Horse has got all the rights for the comics. We can't do that. But we'll think of something to do with the story. He really liked it. Well, then it's really tragic because Denton was Edgar Rice Burroughs' grandson. His dad, John Coleman Burroughs, did a lot of the covers. And so Denton worked for his grandfather's company through his whole life. And he was the president. Sandra Goff was the previous president of Edgar Rice Burroughs Inc. Retired. He took over as president. That night, there's a fire in the headquarters, burns up some of his father's original paintings. I don't know that they've ever been reproduced. And, Denton wasn't a real healthy guy. He had Parkinson's. And so all that stress and all that just hit him all at one time, had a heart attack that night and died.
Man.
And the story got lost after that. I lost all contact with the Burroughs people until I got ready to do this Edgar Rice Burroughs 100-year chronology. And one of the publishers I was talking to said, okay, you got to get permission from them first. I'm like, all right, I'll cold call them because I'd lost all contact. I hadn't talked to him in like 10, 15 years. And so I cold called Jim, Jim Souls, the new president of it, and he's like, who are you? What are you talking about? And I was like, well, I just put up this page on my website called Tarzan's British Heritage. I'd only put it up like 2 days before. He's like, oh, wow, you did that? He loved it. Bam. We had a deal going before we finished the conversation. So then through the whole process of getting the chronology going, we kept talking, and I said, you need to let me do something with this story. And he wasn't following that this was an Edgar Rice Burroughs fragment. I guess there were no records at the office about it. And so they didn't know what I was talking about. So we were working up the deal with Alex, and they kept saying, well, you need to take more money. It's like, no, it needs to be 50-50, like, well, I'll take 2/3. Like, no, And then I kept trying to tell them that this was a Burroughs story. Well, the day we're signing the contracts, finally it all comes together. They realized what I was telling them. And so we're rewriting the contracts and hand mark it up the thing and to make it where it is an Edgar Rice Burroughs story, because they thought it was something I wrote. And one of the biggest compliments, though, when it did get published, is whenever people would look at it and you ask, okay, which part was mine and which part was Burroughs, they'd always say the part by Burroughs was my part and the part I wrote was the Burroughs part. So I guess I aped his style.
Yeah, we snuck this one under the radar, because it's funny too. Because we pay semi-pro rates, but we couldn't really pay semi-pro rates for Edgar Rice Burroughs. So we ended up coming up with a number, and once we came up with the number, the Burroughs people were like, "Great! So what are you paying Michael?"
Yeah,
but we were still able to give Michael a cut because it's a freaking Burroughs story. You don't pass out on a chance to get that published.
Absolutely not. Of course not. Herrenberg's talking here, says you might want to come up and vend or speak at Pulp Fest 2021. Again,
I would love to, but Pittsburgh is a long ways away from Arkansas.
Yeah, it is. St. Louis is far enough. And
I've got some friends who are actually going to be doing some stuff at Pulp Fest, I think. Benjamin Rodriguez, who's done at least one cover for us, I think has a table there this year.
Set up something virtually.
No, virtual cons are sad.
Oh, I know that, but you could virtually appear at the physical con if they had the physical con. I met Spider Robinson that way at Archon one time, just walking around, and there was the television set at the end of the panel, and he's still on there talking to people, and you just kind of walk up to it and talk to him. It was the weirdest thing in the world, but it was him interacting with you.
We're living in the world of Max Headroom.
Yes, we do. So this is the Bad Axe cover that will appear inside the book. You do have a second cover here, Alex, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to explain this. Explain this to the readers here, what we're seeing.
That's Chin from the Toho games. Toho is a series of bullet hell video games that it's very difficult to explain, but it's got sort of its own little meme culture around it. And we like to post some Toho memes. We like to joke about that. And one of the things that really makes the sci-fi in crowd is that we refer to ourselves in our bio as a Hugo Award nominated Toho poster.
Okay. I guess I've never seen the character before, and it's not your typical magazine cover art style.
No, absolutely not. It's basically just a shit post,
As I put it on my website, I said that is not an Artomique. That's not what they're doing.
Yeah, no. Neither one of these covers is an Artomique.
Well, actually, there is an Artomique up there in the background. He's a little bit hard to see because he's under the lettering, but hopefully we got the layout to where you can actually see the insignia on his hat.
Okay, so this is
the cover. We'll have the Artomiques. So here they've been like bad guys in the backgrounds through all the Wild Stars, and they've never had a cover appearance until now. Now, one of the things we were talking about unique names and Cirsova being a unique name, the Artomiques, where I got that name from, is one of the subplots of my story was, there was an alternate reality of the fascists, of the Artomiques. And in Nostradamus' writings, he was talking about the Artomiques and this and that. And I was like, that's a name nobody's ever used. So I took it, I made my fascists, they were the Artomiques. And if you do a search online of the Artomique paradigm, bam, it'll only be me. There is no other usage of that word phrase ever in the English language. You will come up with nothing but me on a Google search.
Well, that's what you want. You want to be, you want to show up first when you search something on Google. And
yeah,
oh yeah.
Now it's even better when you're the only one that shows up. I remember when I was doing my early Wild Stars comics, and I did a spinoff that was part of volume 2 of the book called Force Majeure Prairie Bay. As I was checking for reviews, and I made the discovery that in Ireland, which I'm from Ireland originally, my parents were, descended from the potato famines, and a force majeure is a clause in a contract that basically says, look, this is an act of God that just nobody can predict. When force majeure happens, all bets are off. You just start running because it's just everything's out the window. And so in Ireland, though, so if you have an instance of force majeure, you're trying to claim against the government, like, this is just something I need some help on. All acts of force majeure claims are filed on the second floor of the Michael Tierney building in County Cork, Ireland, which is where my family immigrated from. So I was like, wow, that's serendipitous.
That's very cool. Harrenberg's offering you a place to stay, Alex, if you decide that you do want to go there and stable. And BAP2 just bought a copy of the Wild Stars Omnibus.
I'll be cutting you a check soon, Michael.
Cool.
Force Majeure is a great Tangerine Dream record as well. I've been hearing a lot about Force Majeure lately too, because I've been looking at contracts. So
yeah,
that clause in there.
Contracts, like that just voids everything.
Oh, I think if there's going to be an act of God, you have to get God's affidavit saying that it was him doing it. Otherwise, I think you might be playing the act of God thing a little high here. $50, you get the cover bundle. This is where you get cover A, cover C, and cover B hardcover. So that's a hell of a deal. You get all three of them for $50, plus you get the digital copies. You just get the digital copy. You're only going to get one copy, right, in digital?
Yeah. Well, actually, no. There are multiple digital copies. We are offering standard EPUB format, Mobi format, and PDF.
Oh,
We're offering PDF because, we figure we're printing a comic. A comic's going to look better in PDF than it will in an ebook. So we want to give as many options as possible to people who want stuff digitally.
I understand. So that's why it says digital copies, because it's actually digital, different formats of the digital.
We're offering multiple formats for optimum reading.
That makes perfect sense.
And, you might find it easier to read the stories on an ebook, but you want to read the comic in the PDF.
So now we've got, and then we've got a cover bundle B, which is cover A, cover C, hardcover B, and then soft cover B.
Yeah, we are going to make some soft covers of B available, but they will only be available to retailers who buy through us, people who back this tier, and our contributors.
Okay, and of course, cover's not done yet, so people can't see what it would be, what it would look like. It's got to be a hard sell right now.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that once Genzo Man finishes the cover, we'll be able to push it hard in a week. That might help get us past that plateau that most crowd funds get a week or two in.
Yeah, because you're at 1,052. You have a $7,000 goal. 26 days left to go. That's the other thing about Kickstarter. You got 30 days and 30 days only.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to the Indiegogo, where you got 30 days, then you got another 30 days, and you got the whole run up to it, where you can have 60 days before you actually do the launch. All kinds of weird things. $68 is a retailer bundle. That's 10 copies of cover A if you're a retailer.
And that is 55% off the cover price.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be like $120 if you were just buying it straight out. So that's an awesome way to stock your shelf if you're a retailer selling these.
Always good to support the retailers.
Yes. Oh, you're gonna love what I'm gonna do with my distribution network, Michael. I've got retailers in mind for this. I'm thinking 4 steps beyond what I've been talking with Alex with it already. So that's going to be, it's going to be a glory to behold. $68. You also get bundle C. So this is 10 copies of A, or hang on, I've scrolled too far. A, B, and C. 10 copies of each one in softcover. $68 for each bundle. So you can get 10 of A, 10 of B, or 10 of C. I'll bet you could probably get all 3 of them. Here we go. A, B, and C, 5 each for $100. That's still 45% off the standard retail price, suggested retail price, rather. And whoa, now hold on here. Dark Philly original art. What does that mean, Alex?
It means we will actually send you the pen and paper inked interior artwork that Dark Philly has done for us. Okay,
and we don't have a copy of that on the site yet?
No, we don't have them posted yet.
Okay. I was going to show what that was. So that's the original art. That's black and white ink by Ehrlich Snatching. Of Ehrlich Snatching the Icarus. I thought that was a name.
It's a seed in the story.
Yeah, Ehrlich Snatching the Icarus Stone in the story. Dark Philly is the artist. So for $250, you get the original art and the hardcover version. For $250 on this one, you get they're both both $250. You get Dark Philly's artwork of the Red Queen, which is the Red Queen with Achilles. Now, what story is that coming from, Alex?
That's also Wild Stars.
Also Wild.
Yeah. Now, some people who've read Wild Stars, wait, didn't the Red Queen die in the last one in book 4, or book 3? You have to read book 5 to find out.
All right. Well,
yeah, I completely understand that too. Completely understand.
Yeah. So keep an eye out on this one. They'll get the when they get the artwork in, they'll update the page. And then, of course, you get the Dark Philly original art, Eminem, Mongoose, and Meerkat illustration, along with the hardcover B with the Genzo. Yeah. Does Genzo Man have artwork online? I can at least show us.
He's part of Udon Studios.
He's got he's done some art for Common America. His main stuff is he does a lot of stuff for Udon, the Street Fighter stuff.
Okay, I have done a search for Genzo Man, and I am bringing it over here. So this is not, better not be porn. These are not the covers, but these are his artwork. So
Right.
While we're not showing the exact cover that we'll be getting, you're seeing the style of artwork he does. So this is what you'd be getting something of like this on the hardcover version for Cirsova magazine's 5th anniversary edition.
And I'd share the pencils if we didn't have to redo the background a little bit. I gave them the wrong note for the background, so we were doing some tweaks on that. Otherwise, I'd post the pencils.
Yeah. So we're basically getting it's going to be sort of a manga-esque style of cover artwork here. Do you know the character? Is it going to be some of the Artomiques? Is it going to be Wildstar's characters?
It's going to be the 3 Artomiques and Bolson, who's the character who's on the cover that Anton did, the main cover there.
Right.
Okay.
And
This guy's stuff is beautiful.
Character.
This guy's stuff is absolutely stunning. So
yeah, we definitely plan on using him in the future for some other projects, and we might get him to do some more Wild Stars since we didn't have a chance to get him to draw any of the ladies of Wild Stars for this issue. We'll have him definitely drawing some in the future.
Yeah, that's why I started clicking around here trying to find men, because I'm like, wait a second, he's drawing Artomics and this other guy. Let's not show the ladies because that might sell to a different market. But okay, so here's some Street Fighter stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. That's beautiful. So that's the kind of stuff you're going to see on the hardcover version B. Oh.
Yep.
All right, so I'm looking at the things that are being here. Mongoose and Meerkat. I have not heard of Mongoose and Meerkat. The first thing I think of is Spafford and the Grey Mouser, but that's down here, Rogues of Mirth. So who and what are Mongoose and Meerkat? Because it sounds like they're an ongoing.
It is an ongoing, and they are very similar in some regards to Spafford and the Grey Mouser, but it's a little bit more akin to Slayers. If anybody is a fan of the manga or the anime, it's a guy-girl duo. They're sort of swords for hire rogues, sometimes thieves, sometimes mercenaries, and they've been one of the ongoing staples of our series, of our magazine series. And just last year, we published a fully illustrated collection of their first 5 adventures, and that was probably one of our biggest sellers recently.
So that's more of a fantasy setting than a sci-fi setting?
It's sword and sorcery.
Gotcha. And you run the gamut then. You're pulp, but you're like, sword and sorcery, space opera.
Yeah. We do sword and sorcery, sword and planet, science fiction. We do some horror. We do some gothic horror stuff. I mean, we've got last year we had a horror story by Mark Pellegrini, and we've got another horror story from him coming out later this year. So,
Mark Pellegrini, who's the writer on Common America, which, by the way, is
on $1 billion.
Yeah, and it's also on criticalblast.com right now as one of the nominated best comic book stories of 2020, issue number 1, because that's the one that came out in 2020, although I think issue 2 did as well. So if you want to vote on that and you haven't, head on over to criticalblast.com, find our poll, and vote in that, along with our other categories like best movie and best series and best comics writer and artist. So after Mongoose and Meerkat, then I'm seeing Robert Zoltan's Rogues of Mirth. And that sounds like another sword and sorcery story.
Yeah, that's another sword and sorcery one. It's a little bit more magic driven. Mongoose and Meerkat is kind of low fantasy. There's not a whole lot of magic. There's a little bit, but it's a little bit more down to earth. Rogues of Mirth is closer to the weird tales, sort of not science, but sword and sorcery fantasy stuff. The big difference between Robert Zoltan's Rogues of Mirth and Spafford and the Grey Mouser, in my opinion, is that Darien and Blue aren't total scumbags. You actually feel good when they win. you cheer them on, and you want to see them do good and make out in the end. Whereas like so much of the Fafford and Gray Mouser stuff that Leiber wrote after the stuff from the pulp era is just kind of grimy and gross, and you're like, these guys are just too scummy.
I seem to recall that Fafford and the Gray Mouser appeared in a Wonder Woman comic.
They might have. DC used to have the license for them. The first 5 issues of the Sword of Sorcery comic before it turned into Amethyst was a Fafford and Gray Mouser book. So ironically, when Dark Horse got the rights to it and Dark Horse published their Fafford and Gray Mouser comic omnibus, you had Dark Horse reprinting DC comics.
Oh, well, that's probably a precursor of things to come. Won't be Dark Horse, but probably IDW. So we got Devil's Deal by Michael Weisenberg. My Name is John Carter. Hey, that's my name. By James Hutching. This is a long-form adaptation of A Princess of Mars. Now, explain.
He's been doing a long-form poetry adaptation of the first Barsoom book.
Oh, so he's converting it to poetry, but telling the same story.
Yeah, it's a retelling, but it's the first Barsoom book.
Okay, it kind of puts me in mind of have you seen those Shakespearean versions of Star Wars?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, yeah, I get a kick out of those. Reading the Shakespeare, it's as though it's written by Shakespeare in a play, and you're reading it, and it's screenplay stuff.
Yeah.
I skipped over Michael Weisenberg's story here. Devil's Deal. A gambler and a wannabe card sharp Henry finally has an ace up his sleeve, the ability to see a moment into the future, diabolical gift from the devil himself. Michael missed out on getting that submitted to the Devil You Know anthology that we did last year, but that's okay. We'll let you have him.
Yeah, that's just a good, short, fun little weird horror story. Now, Twilight Zone-esque.
Yeah. Now, these the stories. What's the page range that you would normally get out of a story? I mean, once you get into one, how long are you going to be into this story?
Tell you the truth, I don't know the exact page counts because as a publisher, I tend to think of things in word counts. The section of Michael's novel that we're serializing right now, we're serializing about the first 20,000 words of it in this issue. The Rogues of Mirth story is about 10,000 words, a little bit more, and the other stories are around 5,000 words.
Okay, so when you do these, are they because you're printing in your standard A4 size format? I can say that
we're a little bit bigger than A4. A
little bigger than A4, but it's magazine sized.
Yeah.
Are you printing like straight across the page? Or are you going 2-column, 3-column?
We do 2-column print.
Okay.
2-column, size 14 font, easy on the eyes.
Michael's got an option here for us to see it. Okay, there we go.
If you want to read the Wild Stars, you don't want to do that omnibus. Alex and Cirsova also have all 4 of the books available in paperback form. There's book 4. There's book 3. There's book 2. And here's the monster of book 1. This one's 300 pages. So they're all different thicknesses and sizes. And on these, the back covers all go together to make a symbol to make a bigger picture when you put all 4 of them together.
Oh, that's very cool. I love puzzle covers like that.
Yeah, I keep talking about, we were reading multimedia. The first one is all the comics put together. The second one, the Force Majeure comic, which there's part of the story why sections of this are comic and part of it text. And there's actually a reason for that. And then the other ones, the first one was a graphic novel. The second one was a novel with graphics. And after that, they're just illustrated novels.
Okay. So do you think you're ever gonna?
Sorry.
Do you think you're ever gonna go back to the graphic novel format?
Well, it's so expensive. Hard doing the art.
Yeah.
So But there is a reason that what parts of the story were graphics and part of it were not. It's like the book one. That's a book of circles. That was all from a telepath. That was everything that she picked up, and basically her kind of assembling a narrative of all the events that were going on around her. The book two, what you saw, everything you saw were all basically security videos that were used in a court-martial trial, and so maybe do some comic books on them again. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was actually part of the story. Why part of it was graphics and part of it were text.
Okay. And this is, by the way, going to be the first time ever that Cirsova magazine will have illustrations on the interior. So that will be a landmark for the readers. Dark Billy, who did the interior art for the Mongoose and Meerkat Pursuit Without Asking. I'm guessing that was another special standalone story magazine that you guys did.
Yeah, like I said, that was the anthology collecting the first 5 Mongoose and Meerkat stories that we published, and we published those in illustrated volume. Had about 9 illustrations, I think.
Okay, and then Robert Zoltan has provided his own illustration for the Book of Dark Size, which will be the Rogues of Mirth story, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Very nice, and then of course the Bad Axe. Where's the description for the Bad? Paul O'Connor's Bad Axe. I've shown the picture. I kind of keep skipping over it here. So Paul, this was back in the late '80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
90s.
90s.
Okay. I think the first one may have been '89. The last issue might have been from '90.
90s was when everybody was starting to get independent all over again, and it was definitely gearing into this heavy metal kind of look. You had your Spawns, you had your Rip Claws, and your Razor, and such. So, and 90s is cool again in comics. So this would make a great back cover. I don't know. You're obviously not going to print in color on the interiors, I would guess, Alex, because that's very expensive.
We've got that reproduced in black and white in the interior. The comic itself was a black and white comic.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we did not have the original artwork, so Michael Tierney helped us with a lot of digital restoration work. He worked miracles on those old yellow floppies that I had, because even Paul didn't have the original art.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a challenge. After all this art restoration, I've been doing all these chronologies. I've developed a lot of kind of crazy skills in Photoshop there to kind of coax it back out.
Now, how many of are you reprinting the entire series in this?
Yeah, it's a 3-issue mini-series, but we're reprinting the whole thing. It comes out to about 90 pages.
So all 3 issues of Bad Axe are going to be reprinted in this one issue of the anthology.
No, we're going to be serializing it over the next 3 issues of the magazine. This one's going to have the first issue.
So when you get this one, you want to pay attention for when the next 2 issues of Cirsova magazine come out, because you'll want to finish the story of Bad Axe, of course. If you didn't get it in the 90s, you can get it here. Just look at that cover. That's what you're getting. You're getting a skeleton demon with fire, with a Bad Axe name to it. So
that is actually the Bad Axe character.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, it's very cool looking. I might even have a copy of that over here. I might dig through and see if I got it or not. I used to at one point. So is there anything, Alex, that I'm missing on this? Because we've been going right on the hour here.
Just really hoping that we can hit that $7,000 mark, that we'll get enough money to keep going, keep doing the interior illustrations. That's where a lot of the money is going to be going towards, is doing interior illustrations in the future, and being able to try out you guys as a fulfillment service. That's one of the real reasons why we're doing it this way, is so we can test this out, see how Critical Blast fulfillment works out.
Yes, absolutely. So come on, guys, get this thing to 7,000. I can see already I'd be doing 46 packages because there's 46 backers here. So that'll keep me busy for like half an hour. Troy Reiser, a good friend of mine, here's in the chat, says, drawing skeletons rocks. It's like getting in touch with my inner Ray Harryhausen. Harryhausen was a genius. That's exactly what that skeleton cover reminded me of, too, was like a Harryhausen frame. You could just almost picture the way he would animate that in stop motion. All right. Well, with that being said, all I can say is, folks, if you're watching this on the replay and you like pulp science fiction stories and you want to read a bunch of them in a single sitting, this is a 120-page magazine with multiple stories in it, 3 different covers. The basic softcover magazine is only $12 each, $12 for and the digital copies. So, in multiple formats, whatever is going to work best on your device, it will be there. If you want to spend $35, you can get the cover B, the artwork not available yet, but we've shown you what Gonzo Man's artwork looks like, so you won't be disappointed. You can get the hardcover 120-page. So you'll have 30 pages of comic book story in there, and then pages and pages and pages of pulp science fiction and fantasy action in Cirsova magazine for their 5th anniversary. Now, how often do you guys come out, Alex? Are you like a quarterly or?
We average out to about quarterly. We're going to be quarterly this year. Last year we put out 5. There have been a couple of years where we only put out 2 or 3. We're putting out 4 this year.
All right. Well, then definitely help back this, get this going, so that, because quarter's almost up. And once
it doesn't matter if anybody. I mean, this sucker is pretty much in the can. Literally, all we're waiting for at this point is Gonzo Man's art, and we're going to put in an order for the proofs.
Excellent. I can't wait to see what he's drawn up. So I'll continue monitoring the Kickstarter page here to see Gonzo Man's artwork. Like I said, we showed you all what he's done, so you're going to get quality artwork here. With that, we're just going to close out the stream. And Alex, Michael, thank you for coming on. John Decker wants that Chen cover, so he's hoping you guys reach the $7,000 mark too. Michael, we'll see you again tomorrow on the.
Thanks for having me on.
That was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I said tomorrow night we do have the LCS guys. We'll have special guest Ken Gleason if you guys are following the Mighty Mascots, and then Monday night we will be having Rob Stanley bringing us the Bite of Brenna Barlow. So be sure to tune in on those nights, and we'll be talking some more crowdfunding comics. Guys,
talk to some of those guys and be getting a retail order.
All right, man. Take care. We'll see y'all later.